My name is Abdurrahman. I am at the Department of Geology here at AUB, and I have the great pleasure of introducing the next few speakers. First, Mr. Oystein Lee at the Petroleum Geoservices, PGS. Mr. Oystein obtained his master's degree in exploration geophysics from Curtin University in Australia in 1998. He started with PGS in 1999, working on data processing. In 2005, he was promoted as the PGS Depth Imaging Supervisor, then as Multi-Client Supervisor for the Middle East in 2007, until he assumed his current position as the Middle East Multi-Client Manager at Petroleum Geoservices. His presentation is on geophysical exploration and the hydrocarbon potential offshore Lebanon. Mr. Oystein, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to present what we have done in offshore Lebanon and present the geophysical exploration we have done in cooperation with the Ministry of Energy and Water. It's paying a lot of attention these days, offshore Lebanon. So every company we visit, they are very interested in this region, and in particular the Levantine Basin. So hopefully it can turn into a future hydrocarbon province. The outline of my talk, I will describe the geophysical data we have in offshore Lebanon. I'll talk about the petroleum systems, talk about the mega survey we have and the petroleum potential offshore Lebanon, and then a little bit about acquisition technology before the summary. For those of you that don't know about Petroleum Geoservices, just a couple slides about our company. That was founded in 1991. At that time we had 2 seismic vessels. Today we got 14 seismic vessels and employing more than 3,500 people, and have a local content in 25 countries. It is a pure geophysical company, and here I have listed the core business, which is basically driven by the marine contract market. Then we do research in all different aspects. We do data processing, we do reservoir studies and interpretation, and also multi-client is a big part of the business, which is non-exclusive seismic. Now let's go straight to the point, and offshore Lebanon. This is showing the data library we have in Lebanon. So 2D lines in black and red, and 3D data coverage in blue. And also on this slide you see the latest discoveries in the south, and also the latest discovery offshore Cyprus, which are all major discoveries. The Leviathan is 20 TCF of gas, and the discovery in Cyprus is between 5 and 7 TCF of gas. So maybe in a few years we will see if you look at this figure in a few years, we might see some beautiful fields in offshore Cyprus as well, because that is yet to be proven. So you heard the name seismic being made. Some of you might not know what it is, but in this presentation I'll show you some examples. But first about the operations we have done. So we did a 2D operation in 2008 and 2009, which is basically to get the regional overview when we do acquire 2D seismic data, to get the regional understanding. And so we aimed for a grid of about 10 by 10 kilometers. And then of course you get the understanding along these lines, but in between in between you don't get the full, you don't have any imaging at all. Last year we did infill of this existing grid to complete the 10 by 10 kilometer grid, and also to do some strike and dip lines to get a better picture of the offshore region. So all these operations with the 2D was done with the GeoStreamer technology that we'll come back to. These are the 3D surveys we have that we got on the shelf currently. One in the north, one in the middle, and one in the south. And here, of course, then you see you actually get the information between those holes on the 2D. So the 2D will be for regional understanding, the 3D will be for actually a proper gridding of the subsurface and to well planning. This year we have acquired a new 3D survey to combine these two. It's a huge 2,800 square kilometer survey, and actually today we will complete this survey. There's a few lines to be shot up here. So today we are steaming to this area. And during May we will acquire this 3D survey in the south, and by that we have quite a lot of 3D coverage to plan for the license round. So that means PGS will plan, but also the old companies have the opportunities to really get a good understanding for the offshore region. Of course, to understand the petroleum potential, we need to look at the tectonic elements involved in the region. And what's very important are all these four that I mentioned here: the Levant margin, the Cyprus arc and the Cyprus deformation front, the Syrian arc fault belt, and the Levant fault system. What we illustrated here is the base Messinian grid, which is based on the interpretation on the 2D and 3D data. And that is in time. We're also able to depth convert that, so that's what we try to illustrate in the background. We've got the velocity model, because we have a lot of geophysical data. So you can build a velocity model over the whole area and do depth conversion of these grids. So of course what's setting up the most attractive traps in the region is this Syrian arc fault belt. So you'll see these farm bumps, and I'll come back to those in a bit. So let's look at some seismic lines which will be the basis for the evaluation of the area for the old companies. So this is a 2D line example. You see the location down here from south in Lebanon and up to the north. In south we got the Levant margin, this high, Cretaceous Jurassic high. In the middle we see the major part of the Levantine basin. And in the north we see the Cyprus arc. We've got more complex tectonic activity. So here you see the key horizons interpreted. What I clicked on now was the oldest sequence from Triassic up to Jurassic and Cretaceous. Then we got the Oligocene sequence, then the Eocene sequence, and you see that all the faultings are actually detached to this base of the Eocene horizon. Then they get the base Miocene, which is where they had success in the south with huge gas discoveries. And we got the upper part of the Miocene. So in general, it's a very thick tertiary sequence from here and up to here. The whole region have a thick salt sequence, the Messinian salt, when the Mediterranean was dried out and it had basically 1 kilometer thickness of salt or evaporite in the region, marked in pink. And on the top we got the Pleistocene. So these are the key horizons we have done interpretation on, based on a regional scale. If we look at another line, this is a line going through the Levantine Basin, actually from Cyprus in the west and then to Lebanon. I guess the border should be about here. And here we see again marked in blue the Eocene Oligocene Basin infill, and we got the lower Miocene Basin infill and the upper Miocene with the folding. So as mentioned, As mentioned, they had success in the base and mid-Miocene, but also Noble is currently testing a deeper potential liquid potentially in the south. So we're waiting to see. If that works, it could work in Lebanon as well. But of course, still if it works other places in the vicinity, it doesn't necessarily work in Lebanon, but we can have some hopes, at least. Now, talking about the petroleum systems, we need to look at the vicinity. So again, here you see the key markers, and there's some deep potential source rock, some organic rich shales and marls in Cretaceous and Jurassic, in a deep. It could be that the success in the south has been driven by a source very close to the reservoir, so very short migration pathway from basal and Miocene. There's also a shallow potential for gas, but in particular in the Pleistocene. If we look at the reservoir levels, again there's a deep potential for Cretaceous Jurassic, which will be important for the margins. And also the whole Miocene from base to mid-Miocene, and also in the upper Miocene close to the salt is of importance. Now on this slide you also see potential traps. So it's interesting because this slide is from the gas discovery in Cyprus. You see the line location down here. So you got the beautiful anticline in block 12 sitting here, where they found gas at the base of the Miocene, the orange. And so it's been proven here, so it's very likely that you could find hydrocarbons in Lebanon as well, at that level. So of course, anticlines will be a trap type. Faults, compartments, another trap type. Could also be stratigraphic types, like you see this high amplitude feature in the upper Miocene. So you could have sealing, so that could work as a system as well. Because what has been reported from Noble is that they have an intrabed seal in Miocene. So probably some shales, and of course also have the regional salt in place, if you think about at this level. Now let's talk about the 3Ds and what we call the mega survey. That is when we combine all these 3Ds to get high density gridding of the offshore region. So currently, as mentioned, we got 3 surveys, north, middle and the south. Currently processing is ongoing on this one, and there's some lines to be filled here as well. That is happening as we speak. And this one is the new one planned now, so we got a very nice and high density coverage from north and to the south. So this would basically be done to do a proper mapping of the offshore region. What I highlight on the next slide is the structural closures. So that means anticlines, as we saw in Cyprus and other places in Lebanon. And they are closed, so you got a 4-way dipping closure. So if there are any hydrocarbons, they are in that structure. So that's based on the 3D, and that's where we got the best imaging as well. So we got the best understanding of the closures. So what we see here is two large closures. This one is close to 100 square kilometers at the base of the salt. So you're able here to position well locations with several targets from base of the salt and down to the Oligocene. It's difficult to predict the reservoir properties, of course, so we must be conservative and cautious. But it has been reported high-quality reservoir sands, and by playing around with these parameters like porosity and thicknesses, we could hope for 3 TCF of gas in the larger structure, in this one. We could also, of course, map the whole region based on the 2D data as well. But then, of course, there are some uncertainties about the 2D, so you don't have the correct imaging with respect to the closures. But even though, it's also a powerful tool to plan future 3Ds. So this is the whole area at the base of the salt level in 2-way time, and we are able to map more than 30 closures at this level. And you also see the same closures at the base of the Miocene. Because this is only the anticlines. It has not been marked the stratigraphic potential. Okay, there's someone on Skype here. We also got the stratigraphic potential course, which is not marked, so very excited to see on the new 3D the pinch-out potential along the margin, and also the potential channels and canyons in this region in particular. But in general, the Levant margin is very narrow, so maybe it's not too expected, but we see some hints on the 2D, and I'm very excited to see on the 3D to get the full picture. Now let's talk about the GeoStreamer and the dual sensor technology. What I have been showing is 2D examples from GeoStreamer. What you see here is a comparison between conventional 2D data and GeoStreamer data. It's actually the same line, continues from conventional data here into dual sensor data to the right. And what you can see is that you get much better definitions of the reflectors. So this is seismic data in 2-way time recorded by 8-kilometer long cable, and we fire a shot every 25 meters to be able to record these the subsurface. So each of these are represented as layers with different geophysical properties. So basically, a change between the velocities, which is related to density, to be able to map the subsurface. So for the oil companies to be certain about an investment in drilling a well, for instance, which could be $100 million in deep water, is very important to trust what you do interpretation on. So what we provide here with GeoStreamer is higher signal to noise ratio. As you can see, it's much cleaner data to the right, better resolution and deeper penetration. So conventional streamer records pressure. A dual sensor has 2 sensors in the cable and records both pressure and particle velocity. So the combination of those enables us to split in up and downgoing wave fields, and we use the upgoing wave fields in the processing. And that one is ghost-free when you talk about the receiver on the receiver side, and we give you a broader bandwidth. We actually have done the same on the source side, because then you got the same problem with the source ghosts. So this is just to touch upon that, showing the conventional source and then compare with the geo source. So if you go back This is a geostreamer cable recording, but with a conventional source. This is a geosource where we eliminate the source notches. And you see again, you see that you got a much cleaner image, you got higher signal to noise ratio, and then you can trust the data even further. The 3D data we have shot has been shot in one direction, what we call a narrow azimuth. What you can do is, of course, to shoot in different directions. I'll show you one example here from offshore Egypt, where BP on the Raven fields acquired data, we acquired data for them in 6 directions. So originally they had one direction, this one, which is defined as a 0-degree direction. And then they realized, because of the complexity of the geology, in particular the evaporites, which is very complex in the Nile Delta, they wanted to have to improve the illumination. And hence, then you need at least 3 azimuths to do so. But they wanted to have 6, and we'll show you one example on the final pre-stack migrated stack with a single azimuth to the left, and then the multi-azimuth to the right, where it has stacked all the 6 directions. And then again you see an enhancement in the seismic, going from this to this. It's basically because you got an illumination all over the place. So it's almost like an ocean bottom cable seismic survey. So you got contributions from 360 degrees, almost. And also when you stack it, well, it's not just a straightforward stack, but anyway, you stack out the noise and you improve the signals that you need. So get better illumination, better resolution, better demultiple, and better signal-to-noise ratio. And also operational benefits, because it's less downtime when you acquire the data, and less need for infill. To summarize, we have seen from the 2D data that we are able to get the regional understanding of the tectonic evolution and basin field. On the 3D data, we're able to do detailed mapping and definition of place, and actually locate potential wells. If we merge the 3Ds together, we get what we call a mega survey, which is a powerful tool to really understand the basin and the hydrocarbon potential. The system has been proven all the places in the Levantine Basin, and we have identified several structures and closures that could be potential future major discoveries. And of course, since exploration wells are very expensive, it's important to do to optimize the seismic image by using the seismic technology, because it's you're talking about $100 million per well. So with that, I would like to thank the Ministry of Energy and Water, and I'd also like to thank the organizers of this event. Many thanks.
Thank you.